There's Lonnie Jones. There's
Chuck
Wes.
Norris has got to get a Chuck Norris quote.
I
That's
know,
all I
I
know.
know. You
So
absolutely, no doubt about that. It's part of the contract, I think.
that's
Um,
right.
and then we got Wes Ayers. Wes Ayers say something like about what's his twin used to be at Flow Boulevard. Help me,
Oh yeah, yeah.
Joe Wells. Yeah,
Joe Wells. Yeah.
that'd be cool. Oh no. What's new is my microphone's falling. It's not good.
A podcast. Welcome to the Crossways podcast, a podcast where we discuss how we can walk in the way of the cross. I'm your host, Jonathan Germany, and I got with me my very good friend, Paul Spurlin. And Paul, looks like you're struggling a little bit there, but how are you doing today?
I am really good. How are you today?
Oh, I'm staying pretty busy. We recorded our worship videos today, our sermons, and now I get to edit them today and tonight and tomorrow. But life's good. Life's good. What's new in y'all's area?
Well, we did our here at Palisades. I'm in Birmingham, Alabama, and we did our Thumbs Up Thursday, which is a 4:30 on Thursday, where we check in with all of our members and just have a really cool conversation with them and talk to them about how they're doing and what's new in their life and different things like that. So I was going to do that. We had, of course, had class with our teenagers last night and had about 3 or 4 go-to meetings today. Different things going on.
Oh yeah.
In pure anticipation for the 15th of this month, our governor here in Alabama will release the new how the stages roll with the shelter in place or not, and so we're dealing with that, and so just a lot of things getting ready. Right now in Alabama, unfortunately we're having to deal with the closing of or canceling of summer camps in the month of June, and so those things are happening. We're readjusting. I can say
Yeah.
tell you for Inspire Youth Conference, I can speak for that. The benefit of that is that we have canceled that event on campus at Faulkner University.
Oh man.
We're going to do a virtual thing, so
Okay.
it's okay. It's cool. We're going to create camp and let kids come and
Oh
watch on
yeah.
TV what we do. So
I know. I know. For us, we've been struggling with what we're gonna do for camp around here, and they've now come out and said that we're not gonna be having in-person camp, but we're working on a virtual way to do that because kids want to be together, and it's just now finding the logistics to still offer them some pretty good stuff that they can still benefit from in the summer.
right,
But
right.
yeah.
Sure.
Well, I'm glad for everyone joining us, I guess, in the chat. We would love to hear from you throughout the show. And tonight we're talking about, teamwork. And I see something behind you that I think involves quite a bit about teamwork. And
It's also behind you, Jonathan.
it is. It is. Well, behind me on Zoom. On
that's right,
on
that's
Facebook Live, it's not quite behind me, unfortunately. We'll have to
Gotcha.
get those kinks out later. But
Okay.
yeah, it took a lot of teamwork for that, I guess, and I guess you know that more than I do. But you want to talk about this ministry league behind you for a little bit?
Sure. So, actually, this all started, honestly, around lectureship time at Freed Hardeman. It was the first week of February. We had already talked about a lot of things with Adventures in Ministry and the things we've done, and
Yep.
max number 5 people in our 10-year existence has helped us to gather resources and put an app together and do different things. And so it was a lot of work for just not very many people.
Yeah.
And so me and Chad Landman went to the IHOP there in Jackson, uh, right there away from Freed, and had a brunch and talked about it. And he said, "What about Ministry League?" And so I thought that's pretty cool. So we looked it up and did some research, and I know in the state of Alabama there is no business with that name, and so we have filed for incorporation and some other things. So we're going to be a legit business, and we did. We went from 4 or 5 people to 46 people, and
Woo.
everyone was picked, on purpose,
Yeah.
because of their talents, what they can do, the people that they know, their connections, their abilities, but more than anything, their love for Christ and their diligence and response to the Lord's church. and that
Oh
one
yeah.
church we read about and study about. And so there's a lot to it. There's a lot more dimensions to what we do with Ministry League that we ever thought of doing with AIM. And so it's created a really big family. And if you were able to see the launch last Friday, there was a lot of people in one place, but it was the longest show we've ever done. But it was worth it. If you missed it, go back and watch it. It's kind of neat to see all the different things that we are involved with, and of course, got Frodo to come over and help us with the research stuff, the resource stuff. He's the man. I mean, he's the guy with the
I
resources.
don't know about
So,
that now, but
um,
I'm a man. But you know, what I think is really awesome about all of this is that there's so many people together, and there's so much even more being done than really ever before. And you know, I've been following you guys for quite some time now, and I was doing some stuff with a website of my own, and y'all were doing your own thing. And it was awesome watching all the work being done, and then you know, for it to all kind of come together is really something special. And as we're talking about teamwork, you know, you mentioned 46 people, and I wonder, you know, there's good things, and I guess there's things that are hard to do with such a large number of people. So, you know, as we're talking about teamwork, what do you think is the key to getting so many people to work together for the same purpose?
well, I think you look at the key of unity. You know, you can go to 1 Corinthians 1 and talk about let there be no divisions among you. There's a reason why unity happens. And I think any marketing plan would tell you that you find people that you can work with,
Yeah.
but you also find people that you can learn from. And that there's something, and I mentioned to you and the other guys earlier on, there's something I'm working on. It's a 5-step program. I won't go through all that here today, but there are a lot of things to that. It's about finding people that you can share constructive criticism with. It's also people that you can take that from, so it's a team thing. um, I don't lead by leading. I lead by being with them and walking together and doing this. And that's the whole thing, is everybody brings something to the table. It's a huge round table and everybody's got a piece of the pie. And so I think the one thing to do that is the maintenance of unity,
Yeah.
and going after that thing that Jesus set out to prepare and to provide for us.
Yeah, and I like what you mentioned about the unity thing. And the unity thing is so important because sometimes in you know with a business and an organization like Ministry League, you're obviously collecting people that you know you can work together with. But when we're talking about the church universal or congregations, there's personalities that will clash. But you still have to learn to work together as a team because you're still one body. You're not multiple different bodies who don't get along who are trying to work for the same goal. And I know, and for those of you who watched the video this morning, you know, I brought up the 1 Corinthians 12 passage, you know, where we are all different. And our VBS this year is actually, you know, focusing in on that to help remind our kids that, you know, and we're doing like a Lego based theme, although we can't say Lego because we might get censored. And I hope this,
Bricks.
yeah, bricks, blocks. And, but, you know, everyone's a different shape, size, color, you know, style, you know, but we all have different purposes, but we're all important. We're all essential. And that's sometimes easy to forget, I think. You know, especially whenever we may not understand why someone acts a certain way, it's hard for us to remember that they too are made in the image of God. And I mean, and I guess that's kind of where teamwork is a struggle in the church.
Yeah, I think you're right. I definitely believe that you're right on that. But because everybody is different.
Yeah.
You know, everybody is different. They have their own way of doing things, and so you just sort of set the tone of this is how we have been doing it, and you go after people from the team aspect.
Yeah.
You go after people that's going to benefit the work the best.
Yeah.
And we all know this in ministry. Everybody tried out for a job one time or another, and that eldership is looking for someone that complements what they're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when we do this, we're looking for someone who is going to complement what we want to accomplish. And so that's why it's so neat to have so many people. We not only, started with people that were hard workers, which we definitely did, but we also went after people we admired, people who are really doing some really good work. And even during this, you learn new things.
Yeah.
You learn new things. This morning, I was watching from last night. Trey Morgan did a lesson on Zacchaeus, and I'm like, wow. I mean, if you haven't seen that, you need to go back and watch that. That's so cool because he and Lee, they do the stronger marriage thing, and that's so infectious. The work they do, the things they tweet, it's just. But you see everything else they do as a part of that ministry. It's really cool, and they love Jesus. They love God. We go to and I can't list and mention every possible person that's part of everything we do, but I just noticed that this morning as watching that. It's not just the one thing; it's other things.
And I like what you said. You learned from other people. You're learning things, and I think that takes humility. And part of working with a team requires humility. Requires you to say, and I've been working on other teams before and with other groups, and I know you and I helped out with Story, which is an interesting kind of convention.
Yeah.
When we all put on VBSs, our VBS committees are often a mash of different people and different personalities, and I've put together some people that have been chosen for a reason. They're either good in this way or good in that way. They complement my weaknesses. That's really important. And I mentioned to you earlier is surrounding yourself with people who are smarter than you and then I think also being willing, even though, let's say you are in charge of leading something, maybe it's a ministry at church, maybe it's an organization. There's sometimes you almost have to let your little pet project die. And and not saying it's you have to completely scrap it, but maybe you're saying I want to go this direction, and then someone brings into the table an idea, maybe, and you have to listen to them, and that takes humility to realize maybe all my ideas aren't perfect.
Well, that's why God figured out it's kind of neat to have a multitude of guys to serve as gentlemen who lead the church. That's why he says it's not one. And he's a multitude of guys to serve as elders because they all have different responsibilities, but they also have different talents they bring to the table. You don't want a 3-member eldership and all of them think the same way on every possible thing. You go one direction always, and you're never really able to have multifaceted opportunities. Just like a committee or a board, when we do these boards that we're a part of and these events that we do, we find people and their talents that is a little different. We want diversity. We want diversity in everything that we have. We need it. We have to have it. God depends on it. He wants us to have it. So when it comes to even these events we do, diversity is very important because we can learn things from other people, just as you mentioned, but also have some things to offer. Don't go in thinking I have all the answers. If you have all the answers, why are you talking to anybody? Do it yourself.
Yeah.
But because you have other people. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and I wonder if I like what you were saying, but I wonder if we're scared of diversity, and I'm not talking, and I'm more focusing on diversity of ideas, because we almost think that some ideas are too dangerous, but then, which can be true, but then from out of fear of that, we almost then say we can have no diversity at all, and like you said, the one way of thinking creates this tunnel vision sometimes, and if we all have one way of thinking and we share the same blind spots,
right,
then those blind spots never go away.
Right. And sometimes you don't realize they're even there.
Yeah, most of the time you don't realize. That's why they're blind spots.
Exactly. There's no way to get there. And there's nobody else to help you with that if they have the same ones. So you're right.
So as we kind of shift focus from, I guess, big events to now, I guess, local church work, what's the key, do you think? And I'll ask our audience who's watching on Facebook, and I'm been trying to wrap my brain about this for the last few days. What's the key? And really, since ministry started, I got involved in ministry, but what's the key to working with people who are different than you? Because we're required to do that. We are one body. We are supposed to be unified, like you mentioned. So what's the key to being able to, despite differences, still work together for the kingdom?
Well, Jesus died for all people, and John tells us very specifically that there's no greater friend than someone that would die for his friends. Okay, so Jesus is special, and so I think it comes down to a special kind of love, and I think you need to understand and to conquer loving the unlovable because sometimes you may be thrown into a situation to have to work with them or spend time with them or minister side by side with them. Um, I've had 25 years of experience in ministry. I've worked with some really great people, and I've worked with some people that knew a lot more than I did that I had to learn from. And so lessons are learned. Um, some lessons you'll never forget, and so it is what it is, and I'll just leave it at that. But I think it's important to go in, and really it comes down to the position of the person. If it's someone as a minister trying to find a job, or if it's someone as an elder trying to hire a person, or if it's a person who is working as an office manager, there's different ways of looking at it depending on what your position is. But it's all team ministry because we're all
Yeah.
here for the same purpose. We're all have the same goal, and I think
Absolutely.
once that's established, it makes it a lot easier to communicate and to thrive.
Absolutely. And, I was thinking of the Ephesians 4 passage too, of that, when each part is working properly. If I'm too worried about what everybody else is or isn't doing, then I'm not spending time doing what my job is or what my role is. I once heard someone say, "Man, I wish, I had time to point out everybody's faults, but I'm too busy pointing out my own." If we're too worried about what they're not doing, we should maybe just be worried about are we doing what God's given us? God's given us talents, and if everyone works and uses their gifts to glorify God, then we all work together for the same common purpose. And I think that we have to remember, and I think this is the key, part of the humility thing is it's not about us.
Right.
And it's not about us getting recognition. I don't necessarily want recognition. Do I want to be appreciated? That's a little bit different. But do I want to be glorified for this? Well no, because ultimately,
Fanfare.
if something's tied to me, then it's going to fail because I'm flawed. But if it's tied to Christ, I think that's something that if we can all remember together, and that's the common purpose, then working as a team is a lot easier because you remember that common purpose.
Uh, let's stay in Ephesians 1 if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Ephesians 4, I mean. Ephesians 4, go back. If you go 1 through 16, there's two things I think we need to understand when it comes to putting events together, when it comes to organizing a congregation or a VBS. There's two things that we get from this passage we can use. One is the sizzle, and two is the steak.
Okay.
And I have no clue where I got this from, but I love it. One's the sizzle, and two's the steak. 1 through 4, and I'm not going to read all of this, but verse 1 of Ephesians 4, basically talking about where Paul is, where he came from. He's a prisoner of the Lord, but he urges you to walk in the manner worthy of the calling. This is the sizzle. This is the special stuff. This is what we get to do. This is the special sizzle. But in verse 4, he tells us what is the fact of the matter. This is the steak. This is the meat. He says, I'm preaching. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be preaching.
No, I like it. I like it.
There's one body, one spirit, just as you're called, one hope you're calling. One Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God above all, through all, and in you all. That's the steak. That's the meat. That's not going to change. But it's the urging you, the sizzle part, that makes it complete. And when you are leading in a church, when you're leading in a group, when you're leading on a board or whatever it is, you are leading them towards the steak. But you got to provide the sizzle. You got to give the motivation. You got to tell them why. You got to give them understand the unity. You don't cut down, you encourage. You don't hurt, you help. And that's the only way you're going to be successful, the sizzle and the steak.
I like that. And my dad jumped on here and he said, if members are working for the betterment of the kingdom, don't think your method is more valuable than others. And remember, you're on the same side. And I think that, as long as our method is, obviously, biblical, and that's another discussion, that they may have a completely different way of doing things. And it may drive me insane. There's some ways of doing things that I can't do it. But sometimes it's, and I have friends who are that way, and I've had some mentors of mine, and I ask them, and I said, hey, do you think this is the right way to do this? And he goes, it doesn't really matter. And what do you mean? He went, this is your gig, and it's working. He goes, I might do it differently, but right now it's working, and you're in charge. And I'm going to do whatever it takes to help you. And I went, okay, that's not what I was looking for. You're the guy, that's supposed to be telling me how to do things as a mentor. But,
Right.
he was saying, you do
Yeah.
you, as long as it's not harmful. And I
Hmm.
think, that's, we have to be more like that, because that reminded me to then extend that to others.
There's something great to that though, because when a person allows you to use your creative abilities and your creative juices to do your thing, then it brings something to that table. When
Yeah.
someone allows you to do the things that you like to do, it's something that somebody else may not even have. They may not
Yeah.
have that viewpoint, that focal point on what's truly important. And so that's neat to allow people to use their abilities. To bring somebody in and not let them do that is hurting them and the project.
I wonder that, and I wrote this down, and this one word down on my little in my notes things. But trust, that requires trust. If I don't
Sure.
trust you to get the job done, then I'm more likely to micromanage. I'm more likely to tell you, nope, do it my way. But if I trust you, and then I can, if we learn to trust each other, then we can say, hey, I'll allow you to you be you, to use
Right.
your talents with little restrictions, as long as again, we're talking understanding biblical things still.
There's also that other thing too, when it comes to trying to lead a group or being a part of a group. It's simple, very biblical, and that is heart. That we have to have heart. We have to show our love for God, and not just show it, but just to have it.
Yeah.
You don't have to be graded on what you've done. You don't have to be graded on what's out there, what billboard or what mural you've painted. It's just if you do you, like you said, it's a perfect analogy. Is just it's your heart. It's who you are. It's making those decisions and making those steps to help other people, it's infectious too. It helps and encourages. And I tell you what, and right now we need it now more than ever because we're not
Yeah.
having our monthly meetings as we usually do, or we're not getting together as we used to do. And so now is the time more than ever to really, let you know we appreciate you and thank you. I had an elder today send me an email and thank me for the work I'm doing, and it means a lot. It's good to be in a place where you're loved, appreciated, and
Absolutely.
as a leader, do that. If you're an elder, please let your folks know how I'm telling you right now, your ministers, your people in your church, your members, they're probably working harder now than they ever have because we're not struggling, but still striving to reach each other and to be together and keep that unity going. So give an attaboy. It's a good thing.
Oh yeah, and I think that kind of goes back to then allow the leadership allowing people to use their to do that, to be able to be
Mm-hmm.
appreciated. We have a couple here that started a card ministry, and we should be, and we always, I know, Kurt and I and the elders, support that, and we let them know, hey, this is a great work you're doing. And having members with the ability to say, hey, I can start something. They maybe start, another group, they started a food pantry, and
Right.
they're taking it on. And I think the importance is, making sure that each part is working properly.
Right.
If each part's not working properly, then we won't grow.
Mm-hmm.
Paul's saying when each part's working properly, the body's going to grow, and also to have that unity. But I've been fortunate to I've never had a broken bone in my entire life. Knock on wood.
Wow.
I've been very fortunate so far. Now I've sprained my
Congratulations.
ankle. Yeah, I've hurt. I've got injured in other ways, but
Gotcha.
what I can remember, I sprained my ankle playing Foursquare. And long story, it's an embarrassing story, but it was quite funny, and I jumped and landed on the ball, and it was not pretty. And
Happens all the
but it
time.
was like a week and a half, 2 weeks, no, see, yeah, maybe a week and a half before VBS,
Oh wow.
and they were like, "You gotta stay off you gotta stay off your feet for this long." I was like, I can't, you know, but hopping around on crutches and
Yeah.
hopping around on that, it was terrible
Mm-hmm.
because each part wasn't working properly. And then, of course, it ended up being a longer recovery because I was all over it.
You didn't have. Yeah.
Yeah, but
But yeah, you want to go forward. You know, even if they told you honestly, even if they said, you know what, you sit down, we'll do this. You can't sit there and watch folks do ministry. You're part of it. It's something in us. We just can't help it.
Yeah, but everyone's felt something where part of their body wasn't working properly, whether they had the
Right.
flu, whether they broke a bone, and then we know that then you're just all out of whack. We need to encourage other members to do their work, to use their gifts, because if not, that maybe that's why we're not growing. Maybe that's why we say, hey, why was this not successful? Because you didn't allow your people to do their stuff.
But sometimes even when they're unsuccessful, you still want to offer that encouragement.
Absolutely.
I mean, if they're lazy, that's one thing, but I would still try to push them towards the direction of the common goal, and that's something I think that helps in life coaching and in sharing how to make how to find that common goal, how to come to that end.
Yeah.
Is even when things seem at the negative, what can I do to make this a positive? Especially now, we in a lot of things we do. I do at Palisades. We do the outro for our worship service. I'm like, we're praying for you. We love you. God bless you, and stay positive. Because it's tough, but we got to remind ourselves sometimes, and that's okay.
Yeah. And, I think we have to also remind ourselves that, even if we're all working properly, we still may not succeed in a certain objective, but we were
Right.
faithful.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's all that's required is,
Absolutely.
what really bothers me is when we do something and they say, well, that didn't work. Okay. Was it the idea or was it the method? And then, or was it, if we did everything and, we didn't really see any benefits from it. Well, no, we saw benefits from it. We did what God commanded us to do.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't see any benefits from the evangelism campaign. Okay, but we still went out and evangelized like we're commanded to. Doesn't mean we should stop because we didn't
Right.
have any people show up or, we didn't have any baptisms. Sometimes I think we confuse successfulness and faithfulness as almost being hand in hand.
That's a great point, especially on the faithfulness stuff. Is even if the result wasn't what you wanted, if you stayed loving God and going forward, that's a success.
Yeah.
No one loves door knocking. Someone will say, "Oh, I love door knocking." No, you don't. But 9 out of 10 doors will be no's. But if you stop at 9, you'll never get that 10th. You'll never get that good one, and you got to continue. You can't stop. And so that's why we continue. That's why the Lord's church, that's why we're always working. That's why we're always sharing and always doing things like this and things like what you do. And so at Holly Hill and things like we do at Palisades, it's just we continue to go because there is no stop. Jesus went all the way to the end of his life. Gas didn't run out until they took the gas away.
Yeah.
With those nails and that cross. He's looking at us now. When is your stop? When do you end?
Yeah.
The difference is he's not going to make us go to a cross.
No.
That's the whole thing. We're not going to have to do that. He did that so we wouldn't have to.
Absolutely.
So do your stuff. It's so encouraging. The whole story of Jesus, his love for us, and what God provides, giving us opportunities such as this. It's awesome. Why wouldn't we want to continue to go?
And I wonder, obviously, leading up to the cross, and we know that the rest of the story, the resurrection was the awesome point in that story, but just looking at during the ministry of Jesus, all the way up to the garden, if we judged his ministry the way we judge our ministries, we would say you failed, you were unsuccessful, and he was anything but unsuccessful. I mean, we look around now, but sometimes we say, how many people rejected you? You weren't successful in your mission. Well, he was. He was absolutely successful. And I think we have to remember that Jesus didn't succeed in converting everyone he talked to. And, he met lots of, I guess not ideal results in his teaching. So why do we expect any different?
But with that, I'm pretty sure he talked to the cashier when he checked out at the grocery store. The person that waited on him at the restaurant. I'm pretty sure he left a good tip and talked to him about Jesus, about himself.
Yeah.
Sorry, about God. I'm pretty sure that wherever he goes, he's gonna share, and that's the way we need to be. We need to be relentless on sharing the greatest story ever told.
Absolutely. and and having teamwork means we can lean on upon each other for that support whenever maybe it is a difficult situation, because it's hard to stand up when you're by yourself, but we are never really alone because we have God. But when we have others around us, that's what makes camp so special. It makes it, people say, why can't we have this all the time? Well, you can.
Yeah, I know. just less dirt.
Yeah, just less dirt.
One thing I think is interesting when you look at this, and one of our board members, Larry Washington, was sharing this with me. We were talking about this on Tuesday. What a great guy! You need to get him on the show. But we were talking about how that God was the first and best marketer of all time, because he believed in the number. When he believed in the numbers. If we're doing a marketing plan, and we're doing a plan for the ministry league, and we are going to try to spread the gospel all over the world, which is a part of what we're wanting to do. We have a part of what we do in having these mission trips and spreading God's word. It's about the numbers. It's about the people. It's about the souls. And so what God did is he decided, I'm going to put 2 people on earth. They're going to help procreate the world. Yeah. And then he says, I'm going to put 8 people out here, and I'm going to fix what they messed up.
Yeah.
Later on, he decided, I'm going to give my son 12 people, and they're going to help him go into all the world and share the word of God. It's about numbers. It's about numbers. It's about sharing. And what we're doing today, we're getting it from God. And so don't stop believing in the plan, because it works, and the church is strong because God is the Almighty.
You know what? I think that's a great way to end. I like that.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, of course. Well, hey, it's been fun. I'm going to find our music to end, maybe. But it's been fun. I've really enjoyed having you, Paul. Anything you want to close off on talking about any league stuff coming up? I know I've
got a couple of things I'd like to talk about.
Yeah.
First of all, I think our exchange is awesome. I enjoyed being here with you. I will tell everybody the website is ministryleague.com, and everything social media is at Ministry League. Go there. The Amplify series comes out. What's that, next Friday, the 15th, whatever the 15th is. Amplify series. That is your series, your video series, 7 of them. Discussion manual that will come along with that. Discussion guide. Excited. There are at least 50 people that I would like to thank, and all of them, including you, have helped in doing this. But there's also over 50,000 people all across the world that are able to take advantage of this. And I'd love for everybody, all your listeners, to be a part of it. And I'll see everybody, I guess, tomorrow at noon with John and Paul Show.
That'll be great. Well, guys, it's been fun. I've enjoyed having you guys. Remember, this is the Crossways podcast, brought to you by Holly Hill Church of Christ, and for the first time, the Ministry League. We'll see you later.
Appreciate you.